show you the whole setup, okay?
Yes. Oh, okay.
Here are the books.
Yes.
Water, Goldstone, Worry Dolls, Altar Oil, Candle.
Sticks. Those are you have five stickers. That's it.
No, I have an entire book. Hands dusted in space dust because I just got back from space. And then pizza
Pizza.
covered in oregano and hot honey.
Oh, wow. Fancy.
Hi, Aunt Jen, I'm here too.
Hi, pretty girl. Hi, sweet girl. Hi. Hi, see you. Oh, you look so pretty.
I also have snow globe skull.
Snow globe skull, a favorite. Hey, Tim.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, my friend.
Hi, my
So
friend.
hi. So I'm Jennifer McKenna, and it is my honor and joy to hang out with author and my best friend, Tim Cummings, while we celebrate and bring attention to his fantastic new book, The Lightning People Play. Yay, rockets and balloons. Those are celebratory emojis. Wow, you're ready to go. Good deal. So Tim and I have known each other since 1987. We met doing theater, which is so appropriate to be speaking about this book because there's so much theater in this book. And Tim and I thought about doing this interview as a really different way to explore the material together through the lens of a 40, almost 40-year friendship. And I think there's a lot of play to be had. So we're just going to jump right in. Timmy, do you have anything you'd like to throw in at the beginning as well?
I'm absolutely thrilled that we're doing this. I think it's extraordinary that we met doing theater when what I was 14, you were 13.
Gosh, 12? I
Yeah,
think 12. I was
yeah.
12.
That's an extraordinary time for two people to meet and
It's
go on the journey that we've been on as friends and artists and observers, for
explorers,
explorers, for
discoverers.
discoverers, all of it for 40 years. That's no small feat. And it's a real gift to be able to talk like this with someone who's that important, that's such a planet in your orbit, rather than a person that you've never met before and will never see again,
Yes.
which is usually how it goes with things like this. Not always, because we see a lot of interviews where people who know one another interview one another, but this tops that. So that's all
Well,
I wanted to say, is that I already feel this sense of magic and it's amazing.
oh, good. You and I always have a sense of magic, whether we're on the phone. Tim is in LA and I am in New York City in Harlem. And we both grew up on Long Island, Tim in Port Jefferson and myself in Smithtown. And it seemed like thousands of miles away from each other at the time.
Yeah,
But it wasn't. It was like 25 minutes.
yeah.
But we couldn't get to each other because we didn't have car when we were 12. So now this is the distance in which we sit on this planet currently. And yet when we hang out, it seems like we're right with each other.
Oh yeah.
Today, to honor a particular event in the book, we've both decided to have pizza. So here it is. Shall we toast our pizza as well and take a bite? Mm,
Oh,
good pizza. It's so great to talk and eat pizza. So pizza for your characters is a poignant moment, kind of appears unexpectedly at a really special moment.
It's a beautiful moment that takes place in the summation part of the novel that to me signified another facet of the magic in the book uh,
Hmm.
that keeps making its way to Earth, to their young lives, and also a beautiful manifestation of their friendship.
Tim is my friend, and it feels like we've always known each other here and all the elsewheres. Tim loves music, especially The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, The Sundays. There are so many bands I could name. We do not have time. It would take up all of our time here. He also loves oceanography, star systems, draws weird houses and creatures, and has always been an incredible actor. We did theater together as kids, and we lived in different towns. And today we would be considered goth kids at that time, but then the term was alternative. We were alternative kids. On Long Island, we listened to the radio station WLIR or sometimes WDRE. He used to have the best spiked hair and he smelled like the cologne, I think, am I right? It was Eternity for Men, right? Is that what you used to wear?
And
No.
Fahrenheit.
And Fahrenheit. No, but when we were in high school, you wore Eternity, correct?
It was the goth cologne.
Yeah, it was the good. And he smelled goth. Uh, Tim loves the movie Some Kind of Wonderful and sees us, including our best friend Dot, as the three characters in the film, Keith, Watson, Amanda, just like on the poster. As teenagers, we once talked on the phone during a great thunderstorm and we were freaking out. Tim was my senior prom date and we both wore black. He has beautiful handwriting and would write me astoundingly glorious letters from college. He makes up silly songs, makes the best sandwiches, and had a stuffed animal bulldog named Bloody St. Peter, who I still bring up because I love that guy.
Oh, oh.
Love Bloody St. Peter. Tim has danced in the sand with me in the darkness on Fire Island, and he's someone I love to make up worlds with while we talk on the phone. He can play really well. Tim moved to LA 22 years ago, and I am in New York City still. Tim is eating pizza on Zoom. That is my bio that came out off the cuff, not vetted, not corrected. That's what happens. Here's a quote from your book. Um, it says, "This book will change lives. It's a breathtaking celebration of creativity and neurodivergence and connection, and the messy beauty of being a human in the world filled with both pain and possibility. The lightning people play will forever sizzle inside me." And that's Gail Brandeis, the author. And I just love this quote because the sense of a story, a book forever sizzling inside of you, I think is such, having watched you become the writer that you are, though that happened to you. So many stories have sizzled inside of you and have added to who you are as a person and what you create. And the fact that someone sees that in your work and put that on the page for others to read, I think is so incredible. And I just wanted to bring it forward because of that. And I was hoping you would give us a fantastical summary, brief summary of your story off the cuff as well, um, to bring people into what they're going to find when they enter your world with the lightning people.
I cried when I got that blurb. I cried. I mean, it was one of those moments of, oh, oh, thank God, that relief of being seen, of
Yes,
somebody understanding,
yes.
of somebody just putting their hand on your shoulder and saying, we're here, and so is this book.
Mm,
So I just wanted to acknowledge that. The book is a story of these incredible young theater kids who put up a play to raise money for a seizure alert dog because the protagonist's younger brother has started having seizures and is diagnosed with epilepsy. And their play opens a portal. It's not a portal that you might find in a classic sci-fi fantasy novel or story or like a wormhole where you zoom off to another dimension. It's more of a portal for the magic to come through to them and alter their lives.
So as we jump right in, and considering I know you so well and I know your family and I know so much about the inspirations in this book,
Yeah,
and have been with you as you brought it to life the whole time. I feel like I know the characters like they're your friends, and
yeah,
so they're my friends. It's like it's no different than if we were talking about hanging out with someone we knew, when you're talking about these characters like Kirby, A, B, C, and D, and Ellie, so and so. So they're alive in that way, right? So I was hoping you would share a little bit about the particular inspirations for this book and your experiences with your brother Matt, who did have these seizures, and how his presence was also, I think, clearly a essential nexus of what came out here, and the neurodivergence that you experienced that, back in the 80s with your brother. And so now how we speak about that, and then how we spoke about that, very different, very different.
Mm.
So,
Theater has been a saving grace in my life since I was 12 years old. It came upon me unawares. There was a teacher at school named Mrs. Cruz Mark. Her maiden name was Mrs. Chicarella, which we all loved so much when we were kids. She was our music and chorus teacher. And when I was in sixth grade, or it may have been the end of fifth grade, she came to me and said, I want you to audition for the school play that we're going to do. And I said, the what?
what?
The what? She said, the play. And I didn't really know what that meant. And it was going to be, it's a musical for kids about the life of Ben Franklin called Frankly Franklin. And I went in and I had to sing and I had to act and I had to move, like move my body around. And I didn't know until that moment that I could do all of these things and that I could do them really well. And so I was cast to be Ben Franklin. And
You got the lead.
I got the lead.
You were Frankly Franklin.
And I remember that it wasn't just being in the play that was exciting to me. It was the building of the play because the set was a gigantic American flag that hung behind us on the wall. And it was ginormous. And me and this girl named Denise Coletti and a couple of other kids made the flag.
Wow.
And we had to cut it
What'd you
out
make it on?
a huge piece of paper, paper mache it, then painted it, the stripes, the
Wow.
stars. We did the whole thing. And so during the course of rehearsing for it, we were also building the set.
Mhm.
And I remember having this experience of the elation of being in the play and having fun playing Ben Franklin, but also every time I sort of managed to see the back wall or see the set, I would be like, right? That there was this other component to it of
Mm,
being partly responsible for building the world. And I remember
yes. Oh,
how cool that was and how that always stayed with me, which is why in this book there's a huge component of the world building. There are these two characters who are phenomenal young set builders. Like
mhm.
they are geniuses and they make the most incredible theater and set for this play. Um, the other thing about theater that was really cool at that time of my life was because I was so badly bullied.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Yeah.
I
Hmm.
was really badly bullied
Hmm.
and harassed and assaulted and all of that kind of stuff. Theater was a sanctuary. It was like somebody seeking asylum and being entered into another land. Uh, but what was also so great about it was its power to it frustrated all of those people who bullied me. It angered them, and so it felt really rebellious in a way. It was at that time in my life where I was coming into
Mm,
alternative music
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Wow.
coming into punk rock mentality, understanding that you didn't have to go with the grain. Not
Yeah.
that theater is this, alternative thing, but for me at that time in my life and for where we grew up, it was a little it was a little strange and
It was very strange. It was seen as very strange. Let's
seen
not
as very strange. And it
let's not water it down.
Yeah, yeah, let's not gloss over that. It was strange
Yeah.
and people did not like it and it
No.
made me feel good that I was offending them.
Wow.
And all I was doing, I didn't have to offend them by doing what they were doing to me. I offended them by being up on stage and inhabiting people and worlds and histories and stories in a really um, significant way. But I also feel like before that, my love of stories, I mean, I was reading, I mean, I don't know, two, three books a week. I was obsessed with going to the library with my dad.
Hmm.
He wasn't home very much because he was a New York City fire lieutenant, and we didn't really get along, and he was an intimidating and reticent man. But when he would come home, he would always go to the library, and I would go with him. And he would go upstairs to the adult section, and I would go downstairs to the kids section. And when we would meet, I would always take out 8 books because that was the maximum you were allowed.
Wow.
And I would always get, like the Beverly Cleary books.
Oh yeah, of
And there were
course.
much more than 8 of them, and I was going to read all of them, and also the Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
And these books by an author named Ruth Chu, the books about the witches' buttons, magic in the garden. There were dozens of these books about little kids, most of them living in Brooklyn, who would always have an encounter with a weird old lady on the street who turns out to be, the leader of a witch coven that you access through a tree in the park. I mean, these books broke open my world. And so
Yes.
I loved books so much. Watership Down. I wasn't even really supposed to read that, but I read that when I was that age. I read Little Women at that age. Um, and we would go to the counter, and the librarian would always say, like, you don't want to take out 8 books because you'll never get them back here before they're due. And my dad would be like, oh no, he'll read them. He'll have them read. And I always felt weirdly seen or protected by that.
Hmm.
That he knew
Yes.
that before they were due, I would get through all 8 of them.
How long did you have? Like a week
I feel like, what
or a
was it?
month?
A week, 2 weeks? I feel like it was
Well,
2.
there were programs too when we were young where there would be like summer reading programs and you'd
Oh
have to
yeah.
read, get stickers and
And
all
Riff.
that kind.
Remember Riff? Reading is fun.
Yeah. I remember the commercial. I don't remember it applying to my life, but it was reading is fundamental, right?
Yeah. Reading is fundamental.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
It was big. Libraries were huge that
oh yeah.
history.
It was
Yeah.
amazing. It was such a sanctuary. So I remember in the beginning of my journey as an actor, as a thespian, the way that my mind interpreted was, oh, I'm just the people in these books. But in a different way. I'm not on the page, I'm on a stage. And it helped me not be afraid because I would think there's a whole thing with the people in the books. There's all this stuff that happens to them and I know it. So that's what I have to do. I have to show that. I have to show all that stuff. That was how my young mind interpreted it. And
Mm,
I feel like I always had a way in, which is why even to this day, when I act, the way that I interpret a story and a character, I just have I have a very meaningful kind of access to it.
hmm. Yeah. It's like a language you learned very young.
Yeah,
Yeah. You learned it like any like French or Spanish or, it's just
yeah,
something that you absorb. And so you can go there and speak it so easily. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
So that started theater. The next year I was in junior high and I started to do bigger shows, bigger plays, right? They got
Fiddler on
bigger
the
as you went.
Roof,
And when I was in You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown,
of course.
I played Schroeder. The woman who played Snoopy, her name was Paige Patterson. She was in high school at the time. She's a beautiful black actress. She had the most amazing voice. She was the most loving, caring, amazing, like a big sister.
Mm,
And one day she said to me, you need to join Kids for Kids. I said, what's Kids for Kids? She said, well, it's a local teen theater group that does plays all year long. And you rehearse them at this school in Center Reach and you perform them at a different high school. And that was how I first was directed to Kids for Kids. And I think the first thing I ever saw was The Wiz.
yeah.
And Dorothy was in it.
Yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
That's what brought me to meeting Dorothy and then you. And a
Mhm.
lot of other people who have been important in our lives, but clearly not as important as the friendship that was meant to happen. Talk about a portal opening.
Right, right.
I feel like that portal was like hanging over that school, and it was like, boosh, 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 and it just spat out, you know, these starbursts or something that just went down on that school and brought the three of us together. So right there, again, there's another huge uh, um, uh, gratitude for theater.
Hmm. Yeah.
How it brought me my
As
best friends. Um,
as so often happens for
yeah,
people
yep.
who do it. Yeah.
And yeah, I remember feeling very seen.
Mm,
I felt seen. It was hard for me to feel seen in my family life because of the chaos of my brother Matthew, um, who, yeah, he had epilepsy.
mhm.
Um, did you want me to talk about that now, or do you
Yeah,
want?
I mean that's, I was just this was basically what were your inspirations and then for the book and obviously Matt is, a big
He
inspiration here.
he's 2 years older than me. We shared a room when we were growing up. He had really bad epilepsy. He had what are called grand mal seizures or tonic-clonic seizures. Um, and I have a picture of him.
Oh, here he is.
That was when he graduated from high school.
Hmm. It's great, Timmy.
I love the glitter scroll he has. You can
I
see his
mean,
sweet
it's
face.
amazing. Like, where did he even get that at that time? That's pretty impressive.
I think the school made them
It's
for
not like you could order that on Amazon. You know what
I
I
know.
mean? It's where did that come from?
So beautiful. It's so
It is
beautiful.
so
A
beautiful.
little bow and all the blue, Matt, that blue is
Mhm.
definitely his color.
Mhm.
We shared a room growing up and I do, you know, have a lot of memories of him having seizures in the middle of the night and having to experience that. Um, it was always really scary. I would wake up, I would hear the noises associated with seizures, which, in my experience, were a lot of strange guttural sounds, moans, his brain trying to come back to normal. So he would yell out words that sounded backwards, like a tape playing backwards. Sometimes he would fall out of bed. Sometimes I would wake up to the sound of his head knocking against the floor. It was really violent. It was really disturbing.
Yes. Yeah.
But in the context of normal life and a normal family in the suburbs, it was treated like, just deal with it. I remember
Yes.
my dad just saying, just deal with it. I don't know what you want us to do. He has a seizure in the middle of the night. Get out of bed and make sure he's okay, and stop complaining about it. Right? It was the mystery behind it and the frustration of it was too much to handle. So it was just handled pragmatically.
Yes, as was many things back then, especially. I mean, yes.
But I think one of the things that inspired the symbols that show up in this book and the lightning people that show up in this book are probably leftover remnants from my subconscious because there were so many nights where lying in the dark, either right after he had a seizure or
Mm,
usually sometimes before, I would
mhm,
just sense something in the dark. Like there was somebody there or that there was a doorway that I couldn't see.
mm,
And I never really knew what that was. It was like fear on top of fear. So it was the fear of him having the seizure and how I would usually get stuck, frozen in bed, unable to move, and then finally be able to tear myself away from that and go over and help him, which was usually to cushion his head. He would always wet the bed, so I would change him and change his bed sheets and wipe him
mm.
down and do all of this without trying to wake up my parents because I knew they would get upset and they'd probably yell at me or something. So I just
Yes.
kind of took care of it.
It's interesting too, like when you say that you could sense something, it almost reminds me of how they now scientifically have data that trees communicate with each other in the root systems.
Oh yeah.
It almost feels like that kind of communication, like whatever unsubtle nuanced layers in was going on within that uh, kind of perked up your inner root system, or that you could sense in that kind of subtle communication. That's just something that strikes me. It doesn't surprise me. You're so sensitive to that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And but it reminds me of that how trees communicate in a way, sensing that.
In addition to his epilepsy, meaning his seizure activity, he was on a lot of medication.
Right.
He would have to take a handful of pills every day. And I don't know if it was the pills themselves or other aspects of neurodivergence, but he was very slow. I think looking at it through the lens of today, I would say he was autistic or had Asperger's. Um, he definitely had a learning disability. So he had to go to special classes in the school and
Right.
was just sort of, you know, put aside a little bit,
Mhm.
marginalized, ostracized. It was a difficult thing to be around because there were so many kids in the neighborhood. It was
Right.
all Irish, Italian, Long Island, everybody had so many kids. And it was hard to be different among them.
Yes.
So it was always just a very stressful thing dealing with
Mhm.
it. And um, I didn't I didn't have an opening to that whatever was trapped in my subconscious until later in life.
Mhm.
Especially around the time that I started to explore this book, until I started to ask some questions like, what would it be like if I tried to put these two things together? Theater and epilepsy. Like, what? How was that going to make
We
sense?
should also say that he passed away, that he's passed away.
Did he
Um,
passed away? He had a seizure that he was staying in Florida with my eldest brother Jay, and if I remember correctly, he got sick. And if he gets sick, his immune system would be weak, and that he was more susceptible to seizures.
mhm,
And I wasn't there, so I don't know what happened. But evidently, he had grand mal seizure. He had a bad fall. He broke his neck, so he was paralyzed, and he was not able to sustain life like that, and eventually succumbed to the seizure. He eventually, yeah, succumbed to that accident and passed away in the summer of 1997. And yeah,
yes, I
so
remember well. Yeah.
yeah, I remember it well too. It's really painful to think about because it's a much younger version of me. I mean, when I was 24 years old and I was, a recent graduate from NYU and just on the precipice of my life, trying to figure everything out.
And we were doing theater that summer.
we were doing theater, and I was rollerblading around New York City, and I was trying to get jobs, and I was trying to pay rent, and I could never eat food, and uh, clubbing around New York City, and just a wild time where I just felt like so many things kept happening,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
his death was one of them. And I also
Mhm.
remember the frustration and sadness about, God, like, why couldn't we have done anything? Why did this epilepsy bring him down? And I think that's that's why this book brings in the seizure alert dog.
Yeah, you're doing something through these characters.
It's not the only solution to help with epilepsy. As we know today, there
Right.
are
Totally.
so many treatments and there are so many therapies and there are so many ways that people are handling it and living life in a way that it's not so disruptive,
Right.
depending on the severity of your condition. But back then, it felt like aside from his medication, we really didn't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And I think the book explores both sides of that. It's a little bit of an era blender in that it's honoring how it was for me when I was that age when we were young, and
Hmm.
how it's also discussing things in the modern world. But it's all mixed in. The story takes place in a fictional town called Weirville that is itself referred to as an era blender because when you live there, it's like all these different decades in one. It's a very mercurial, prismatic place.
Hmm.
Uh, and that was me trying to honor, one thing that I love about the youth of today, which is how they don't feel beholden to modern times. They feel like they are enamored of past decades and music and movies and pop culture from different eras, all kind of put into a blender. And
Mm.
I loved playing with that, how that would work in their vernacular and their style and their way of being, but
Hmm.
also in terms of the epilepsy, how I wanted to sort of mix up what it was like back then and what it's like now. So it was a lot of fun to explore the notion of a seizure alert dog.
And how does it feel having the sensation of writing for these characters, the sort of healing aid that supports them going forward? How does it feel that you can do that for your characters? I mean, that's an incredible awareness and gift to do that and heal parts of yourself while you're doing that. And I know you feel your brother's presence a lot, and I know there's a real tangibility in when you're a storyteller and a writer and you're writing these things, they feel real. It's not um it's interesting because they don't really talk about that kind of thing in school or in my experience.
Mhm.
um and how do you feel now that this book is coming out, that you are bringing forth this dialogue around neurodiversity, um with all of these elements of love from your life, of things that supported you in getting here?
Well, it feels amazing. It feels hopeful.
Mm,
It feels healing. It feels humorous. It feels magical. It feels profound. It feels accomplished in that it's done and it's going out into the world. It feels like a catalyst for some important conversations. I know that being an actor for so long, I'm able to plumb the depths of a character um, by this point with, with some skill and some love and some vulnerability. And I just put all that into all the characters.
yeah, there really is no um walls between the art that you participate within.
They're all me and not me. It's like
That
a
right, exactly. It's all like oceanic in a way.
Ellie and Rockford, who are Kirby's best friends, are definitely conglomerates of you and Dot completely. But they're different manifestations. It's like in What Dreams May Come, how the
Mm,
souls were able to inhabit different identities. And
yes.
and
Yeah.
then they would reveal, and then they'd be like, "It's me," right?
Yeah.
That's how characters show up to me. They
That's great because Lisa actually I asked Lisa, who's our dear friend, and an incredible artist, what question she would ask you. And the question was from Lisa. I would want to know how the characters first approach him. How do they introduce themselves to him? So that's her question. Exactly.
That is one way, but they also come in fully formed. I feel like,
Yeah.
this happened a lot with Alice the cat too, because I felt like that there were these beings, these entities, these souls, these kids, these stories in another realm close by. And when I sat down to write it, they were like, "Oh, oh, 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 go, 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 go." Like they recognized that I was the tell the story,
Yeah.
even though the exegesis of Alice the cat was very real for me. I lost my mom when I was a teenager, and in the wake of her death, the family cat that she loved and that cat loved my mom so much started acting very strangely, including running out into the street when cars would go by, trying to get run over, which was absolutely heartbreaking. But I started with that. And then these characters came in and said, "We know. It's not,
Yes.
we know this cat." And they came in fully formed, but also they were like, "Okay, we're fully formed, but you can dress us in some clothes of other people if you want to." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." And then we were off to the races.
Hmm.
So that allowed me to honor who they are in their original form, but also for me to tell my story by making patchwork quilts out of them. And then it becomes like a collaboration, the
It's true
whole
collaboration. Yeah.
true
It's true.
collaboration. And a lot of stuff happened that I was like, oh, oh, the whole center part of that book is when they go to this animal hospital for like a nighttime break-in rescue. And I was like, I have never in
Yeah.
my life seen anything like this. I do not know how to do this. You guys are going to break into an animal hospital in the middle of the night? And they were like, yeah, trust us. And so true collaboration. It went to places I had no idea. When the ghost girl came in, I had no idea she was going to be a part of it. I did.
Right.
And so stuff comes in if you let it. And the characters in The Lightning People Play, I mean, it was the same thing. They just show up fully formed, and you're like,
Hmm.
oh, like
Hey.
yeah, I was like,
Hey.
hey, like the two dads. I was like, oh, okay, wow, okay, hi.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to tell me about this situation that you're in? Ellie, Rockford, Cotter's comes in from Alice the Cat.
Yep.
Is a seminal role in Alice the Cat and in this. Mara Gecko, who I cannot love anymore. I think she's the most fascinating character. And the twins, who are the set builders, um, and the stage manager, um, and all the people oh, of course, their theater mentor,
Mr. Krasinski.
Mr. Krasinski, Chad Krasinski. Yeah, I mean, he's definitely a conglomerate of all of those amazing theater teachers, directors, mentors that you meet throughout your life, without whom you can't really, take any steps forward. Uh,
Hmm.
uh, those are the voices of wisdom on the periphery.
Yeah.
Because in a book for this age group, the kids have to do everything. You can't have the adults too present telling them what to do. Otherwise, it's not a kid's book. You have to see them working stuff out. You have to see them.
Absolutely. Which is how it feels when you're a kid. It's rare that you feel like you have a mentoring type figure, someone that is
Mhm.
opening the doors for you. Do you have anyone from your youth that sticks out? I know you mentioned your chorus teacher.
Mrs.
But
Mark sticks out definitely. She was so seminal in my journey because she introduced me to it. Ted Castrinos, who we first directed us at Kids for Kids and then opened another theater company called Take One Theater Arts that we were a part of for a little while. Um, um, Definitely some teachers at school. Kevin Kulke, Steve Wang, um, Jimmy Tripp, Alice Winston.
a
These were
lot, Sammy.
these were professors who left a very profound impression on me. Um, though Krasinski is more of I would say, a mentor than a teacher. Uh,
Hmm.
he gives Kirby a book um, to read when it turns out that Kirby has to direct this play, which was not the plan.
So just give a little sense of what the play is going to help them accomplish. Um,
Hmm. It's so good, even cold. It doesn't lose.
I'll just ask you questions as you're chewing. So
It
I
doesn't.
think it is.
It doesn't lose flavor when it gets cold, like a lot of food does. That's the magic of pizza. Okay, the neurologist says you might want to consider a seizure alert dog. It will help because seizure alert dogs evidently can smell a seizure coming on because there are chemical things that happen in your body, and a dog can smell it and alert somebody or act as a like a pillow if a person falls and starts convulsing. They're expensive though, and the family can't afford them. So he reads on a website that you can raise funds to help with the costs. Then he hatches an idea in his young mind. Oh, well, maybe we'll put up a play about the lightning people and the symbols. The lightning people are what Baxter talk about. He says that he sees the lightning people when he has seizures. Very much a fictional aspect of epilepsy because, as far as the science is concerned, people go unconscious during seizures and don't necessarily have remembrance of what happens. But Baxter is different, hence writing a book about him. He's different and he has visions of things.
Mhm.
And that's when he tells Kirby, he doesn't tell him at first. It takes a little while for Kirby to get it out of him, but it finally becomes revealed. The lightning people show up and then they show him these symbols.
Yeah.
And then the symbols also reveal themselves to Kirby. And that's what Kirby uses as source material to write this play.
In which they're going to raise money
Yeah,
to.
they're going to put it on in their yard and they're going to raise money. And
Where do you
then
think Kirby gets the in? Where do you think he gets the vitality to do that? Like where does that come from? I think a lot of people often say like they're uh, too busy, too tired, too much going on. I mean, that kind of passion and direction and devotion to something, just like writing a book or putting on a play or in any capacity. The fact that he follows through with this and does this, where do you think that comes from for him?
he's a bit of a prodigy.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, like the way Jodie Foster was a bit of a prodigy as a young actor, you know? The year before he starred in a production of Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. He played the lead role of Christopher in that, and everybody was astonished by his talent. And he won this award. And he also has some neurodivergence himself in that he has slight OCD and really, really wants to keep things orderly and neat and organized, handles it in a way that is not disruptive. Like he'll literally have drawers around the house that are messy on purpose so he can go and organize them.
Right.
Um,
I'm just interested in the spirit of, what it really takes to make something and where that comes from, which I think everyone has in one way or another. I think everyone's just so different that but it's interesting to watch a character follow through on something like that.
oh, he dares to make a difference.
Right. Yeah.
He, I think, he also comes from a background of watching his dad struggle. They used to live in Texas before they moved to Weirville, and there were some struggles there with the way that they were treated because they were not accepted normal type of family in the Christian definition of it. And,
Hmm.
and I think that he was witness to perseverance and fortitude, and it osmosed onto him as well. So he's able to take initiative and sort of act a little bit like a leader.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting for kids to be able to read about someone who, as you said, it osmosed. Perhaps he can osmose, as stories do, onto the reader. And
He also really, and this is a very simple fundamental thing, but he really loves his little brother.
yes, that's what I'm saying.
And he's
That's
like the quintessential big brother in a way that he's like, this stuff is happening to my little brother. No, nope. I'm 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 gonna stop. I'm gonna stop this or figure out what this is, which to me is just classic Big Brother energy that I really wanted to explore. And I remember
Mhm.
growing up with that, seeing that in stories, seeing that in movies. I mean, look at Brand and Mikey from the Goonies, right? That movie is a huge influence on me. And Gordy in Stand By Me. I mean, he loses his older brother, but it's the catalyst for the entire narrative. So I was exploring Big Brother energy, just like, you know, when you're a big brother, you love your little siblings. You're a big brother and a little sister. So it's that was what also helped him take the initiative. And I know also from me, I was not Matt's big brother. He was my big brother, so it was a little reversed, but I do remember the
Mm.
frustration of being a witness to this violence and
Yeah.
this mystery that was happening to his body that we couldn't do anything about, and wanting to do something.
Hmm. And you did. You wrote this book.
Wrote this book. It took me a little while, but I wrote it.
Time is not the issue.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's, I think what I'm paralleling here is you writing the book, Kirby putting up the show, the choice that it takes to see the story into this reality, what it means to bring it in, and that it can take a lifetime. And in this case, it took, he passed away in 97 and it's 2025. And um, it's, it's an incredible thing it's miraculous, and it's beautiful that you've done this and that um, it adds to the soup of your story with Matt so much. Your story, you know.
Yeah. It never left me. It's always been with me. Him and epilepsy and theater. I mean, those things, those presiding things have never left me. But I arrived at that point in my timeline where this opportunity presented itself to explore it in this form of story called books.
Timmy, it has been such a joy to hang out with you. It always is such a joy to hang out with you in your beautiful nighttime space with auroras and stars and Gertie and sculptures and Robert Smith's poster. And I could not be more thrilled for you, my friend. I love you so much. And it has been such a joy to sit with you today and celebrate, this incredible coming into the world that is happening. The lightning people play on that beautiful stage in your mind and in your hearts. And these will be characters that will sizzle inside you and you'll take around with you for the rest of your life.
Show me the way to your